Let's go back to the topic. The topic was, why does Kiki show her underwear? Her panties. Hayao Miyazaki himself, here it is. In this book, he actually provides an answer to that. He gives a really straight answer, which he usually doesn't, on page 140. Showing her underwear in the middle of the town, Kiki definitely needed that as the final rite of passage. So, showing underwear in front of all people, the protagonist needed that as the final rite of passage. That's what Miyazaki said. This is the scene. The final showdown where she saves Tombo. Kiki's flying ability finally comes back. She holds on tight and the wind blows to flutter her panties with all the townspeople watching on. Miyazaki's comment saying she needed to show her underwear to townspeople means that Kiki knows that showing her panties is an embarrassing thing. Of course she does. She doesn't want to, but she has to. I'll explain this more in detail. This scene is quite close to the opening. Kiki flying in tandem with the Elder Witch. This is another scene where we see Kiki's panties. This is because of her poor flying skills. The Elder Witch asks her to turn the radio off, which is a simple operation, but Kiki can't remain focused and the broomstick wobbles and her panties are seen. Whereas the Elder Witch flies like nothing happened. So we see Kiki's underwear in her every embarrassing moment, where she makes mistakes due to her poor magic skills. The elderly witch flies elegantly, not once showing her underwear like Kiki does. She can keep her legs closed even while soaring over Kiki. No signs of panties at all. All things considered, this Kiki movie detects what talent is, as well as what the artisan is about. As I mentioned last week, it depicts the world of artisans. People have to go through embarrassment in front of other people to be the real artisans. The embarrassment that makes you want to disappear. But the next day, you show up in front of customers just to embarrass yourself, like showing your undies. People always find your weakness, and you get embarrassed every time, so you try your best not to be embarrassed anymore. That's the way of the artisans. Kiki's underwear, we see, is just a sign of her poor magic power. Flying on a broomstick, her only magic. But her flying skill is not yet something she can show off to other people. But according to Miyazaki, she has to keep on showing her panties. Because she shows them, feels embarrassed, and it's the only way she learns to fly without exposing them. Until then, she has to hold on. This mentally twisted girl, Kiki. As I told you in the last lecture, she had overcomplicated her adolescence. So her ribbon is so huge, anyone can see through her self-consciousness. And she always shows her panties that she doesn't want to show. That's just devastating, especially from a woman's point of view. Trying to look cool with ribbons, but your underwear is showing. This is the expression of adolescence Miyazaki struggled so hard to come up with. Ladies who used to be girls see Kiki and feel uncomfortable. I think these things just send chills up and down their spines. In the end, Kiki makes progress. She was showing her panties everywhere, but in the end, she does make progress. In this scene, in the closing sequence, Kiki flies in tandem with Tombo. This upper image. If Kiki was flying in tandem with a man-powered aircraft in the earlier scene, her underwear would be exposed for sure. But not in this scene. We only slightly see it when she goes down to help Tombo when his aircraft decelerates and hits the sea surface. It does still show a little. It's also slightly shown when she makes a landing together with Tombo. Only slightly, almost unnoticeably. As I said, underwear seen in Kiki's delivery service represents Kiki's immature magic power. But in the end, it's improved to a level where she almost completely manages to conceal her underwear. We see a glimpse of it when she's trying to rescue Tombo. So she writes that she sometimes feels sad, but all in all, she loves this town, and she proudly flies away in the closing scene. So she writes to her mom, her family, I still sometimes feel sad, but all in all, I sure love this town, and flies away without showing her underwear at all. And we think, Kiki, you've grown. But in the very end, she makes one last flash and then flies away. You see, this is supposed to be funny. The girl proudly writes, I'm doing okay to her family. But this girl who thinks she's doing okay still shows off her panties. So she still has so much room for improvement. That's the humor of the scene. Still, she has matured enough to write letters telling her parents to not worry about her. I mean, if it was Kiki at any point before this closing scene, her letter to her parents would be like, I want to go home and I'm lonely. That's what she would have written. Or she won't write any letters in the first place. She won't whine and puts on her brave face to say she's okay. She's learned to smile, even if it's tough. This is how she grew in this Kiki's Delivery Service. She tries hard, never gives in, like the elder witch she first met, saying, I'm okay. But in the very end, she flies away while giving the audience a final huge panty exposure as some weird joke. The end.